guys, I hope that you've been keeping up every week with our, every week we do a different chapter of this book. So I hope that you've enjoyed it. We are about to start chapter 4. So last week we went over Abraham and how he had to wait a really long time to get his blessing from the Lord, which was his son Isaac. And then Isaac went on to have twin boys, which were Esau and Jacob. Jacob was a trickster, and so he ended up getting the blessing. And so he went on to have 12 sons. That's a lot of sons. And the fourth son was Judah, and it was promised that somebody would rise up from the tribe of Judah and overcome the evil one. So let's start with chapter 4 this week. Here we go. Several hundred years after God's promise to Abraham, it looked like things had gotten way off track. When God told Abraham to leave his home, he promised to give him a new land in Canaan. It was going to be a great land. It was supposed to remind God's people of the garden they had once had. It would be sweet and refreshing with plenty of milk and honey. But Abraham and his sons never really possessed the land they were promised. And now it was 400 years later, and they were slaves in Egypt. And when it says they were slaves in Egypt, it's meaning his descendants, his family, not really Abraham and his sons because they had been dead. This was 400 years later. So now they're slaves in Egypt. How Abraham's family got to Egypt is a long story, but here's the short version. They went to Egypt because there was a famine in Canaan, and when they got to Egypt, Jacob's sons found their long-lost brother Joseph, who helped get them food and a place to live, even though he was there because his 10 older brothers had been jealous and sold him into slavery after they almost killed him because of his fancy coat. I told you it was a long story. Okay. Well, delivering them from famine was one thing. That's when Israel's family was still pretty small. Israel, by the way, is Jacob's new name. I guess everyone needed 2 names back then. But hundreds of years later, the family was huge. How would God save a couple million people from slavery? It's not like he could just turn the Nile River into blood and send frogs and gnats and flies and disease and boils and hail and locusts and darkness and death until the king of Egypt let them go. Actually, that's exactly what God did. God raised up Moses to deliver his people, but in reality, God did all the work. He sent the plagues. He led the people with fire and cloud. And you can see Moses down here. And that's supposed to be the pillar of fire and the cloud. He made the sea turn to dry land so the Israelites could walk through. And he turned the dry land back to sea when the Egyptians tried to cross over. It seemed that no matter what the Israelites did or what everyone else did to them, God always found a way to save his people. So that's the end of this chapter. But I just want you to realize how many times the Israelites had been suppressed or picked on, or they were slaves for 400 years, and then when they finally get away, the Egyptians start chasing them again, and it just seems like the Israelites are never going to be free, right? They're never going to have freedom. But we know a rescuer is coming, and so I just wonder how they felt, thinking, when is this going to happen? When are we going to be redeemed? When is the Savior coming? But he proved over and over again that he was with them and he was going to save them. So I hope y'all enjoyed that chapter. We will do chapter 5 next week. And if you have not been able to watch all of them, you can find them on our YouTube channel. And I think it's Antioch Christian Odessa. Antioch Christian. It's a blue circle with some arrows in it. So hope y'all have a good week, and I will see you next time.